Hi everyone, so this is my first video on this channel, and today I'm going to be talking about how I got into every UC I applied to as a transfer. I go to Diablo Valley College in Pleasant Hill. I am a communications major, and I applied to UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, and UC Santa Barbara, which I tagged. And I got into every school I applied to. Here are my acceptance letters. So I definitely didn't expect to get into all these schools, but I thought that I would share my stats and extracurriculars and my essays because I feel like it would have been very helpful as someone who is applying. There aren't that many communications majors especially. I feel like this information could be helpful to everyone who is trying to transfer to a UC. So first, I guess I will start by reading my essays. They are kind of personal, but why not share it? So for my first essay, I answered the mandatory transfer prompt, which was, please describe how you have prepared for your intended major, including your readiness to succeed in your upper division courses once you enroll at the university. And I wrote, discovering the communications major during my second semester at community college felt like the final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. It's the perfect intersection of everything I love to do and everything I excel at. My love for communication started in elementary school with books like Magic Tree House and grew throughout high school, where I began creating TikTok content for myself and others. So for some background, I have been posting on TikTok for 5 years, since 2020. You might know some of my TikToks, like the Nesta Sharded videos or the I'm in Pain videos. I sometimes make slime now, which I talked about a lot. I'll talk about that more in my extracurriculars, but I had about 1.5 million followers on all my accounts, and it was kind of my job for the past 5 years. So over the past year, internships and leadership positions have further improved my communication skills. Expressing myself is something I'm genuinely good at, so the communications major felt like a naturally perfect fit. Although I haven't always been a strong communicator, my recent experiences working at a boba shop and swim school have greatly improved my skills. When business started declining at our boba shop, I took the initiative to create a TikTok account and post content that boosted our sales. The account's success, garnering 363,000 likes, boosted sales and drew in students from nearby schools, making me an unofficial brand ambassador. The swim school, I learned how to interact with children in a way that put them at ease while also setting an excellent example for them. More recently, my internships at startup companies have helped me learn how to share my ideas with adults in a professional setting. My community college classes thus far, especially Comm 101, have taught me how to communicate more effectively with peers and develop my public speaking skills. Speaking to an audience through a screen on social media is very different from speaking to an in-person audience, but this class helps me draw a connection between the two and recognize their similarities. For example, one of my most popular TikToks, 16.5 million views. So this was a video where I was like making slime, but then my friend texted me that Liam Payne died. And it got 16.5 million views. And I made like, you guys might have seen that video. I don't know. Was a video of me making slime, which inspired me to take it to real life and teach my class how to make slime. It was surprisingly fun and I loved it. Overall, these experiences have come together to solidify my love for communication, and I am confident that UC is the ideal place to continue my journey. For this specific prompt, there's like kind of a specific way that you should answer it, or just my personal opinion and how I did it and how I recommend other people should answer this prompt is first I answered it kind of like including my extracurriculars and including some of my classes, and then finally concluding it with like to show that I am ready to transfer to a UC quite explicitly. This prompt is kind of like very open-ended and confusing, and I think that you should try to connect your extracurriculars, try to connect some of the classes that you took. I explained my public speaking class, which helped me. my extracurriculars, also my internships, my job, how I've always been passionate about communication since a young age. Just try to explain why you are passionate about this specific major and what experiences in the past 2 years at community college have helped you prepare for it. But I think that the most important thing is to give real, actual experiences. Don't just be like, I've always loved communication ever since I was little and I'm really passionate about it. Try to give real, actual experiences that show that you are passionate about communication or whatever your major is. So for my second essay, this one is kind of about TikTok, which is something that I talked about a lot because it was just such a huge part of my life for the past 5 years. And I think that it's something that kind of made me stand out. Not that many people, have a large following on social media, and I guess it also really connected to my major and is also the reason that I pursue communications. For this prompt, I chose every person has a creative side and it can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So I said, in July of 2020, the early days of the COVID-19 lockdowns, when I was bored at home, I created my TikTok account, posting a few videos as a way to entertain myself while expressing my humor and creativity. One night, I posted a few videos lip-syncing to an audio singing "I'm in Pain" paired with a funny caption. When I woke up the next morning, the videos had around 50,000 likes each. Lying there in bed at 8 a.m., I could only keep refreshing my account in disbelief as my views and followers rapidly increased. It felt surreal. Seeing my favorite creators reach out to me and scrolling through the seemingly endless comments on my videos reading "You're hilarious" or "I wish I were your friend" was an unbelievable experience. I kept posting more videos and my account's reach kept growing. By the end of that month, I had gained around 350,000 followers. And today, my accounts have amassed over 1.5 million followers. So for context, I have multiple accounts. Some of them got banned because they think I'm underage or something, but I still had those followers at some point. So past 4 years, I have continued to make content ranging from satirical comedy, day in the life, or even just advice videos. I have been incredibly fortunate to be able to turn TikTok into my job. Just this past year, I've accumulated around 175 million views, and I've made roughly $50,000 through monetizing my content. Looking back to that fateful night during my sophomore year of high school, I never could have foreseen how it would change the trajectory of my life in such a drastic way. Today, as my TikTok account continues to grow, my real life progresses with it. My videos talking to my community have allowed me to become a better communicator with diverse audiences. My more comedic videos have helped me take pride in my personality when meeting new people or enjoying the company of my closest friends. But overall, my experience as a content creator has been transformative, making me a completely different, more confident person. I've realized that being vulnerable and showing off my personality is nothing to be afraid of. It's what makes me who I am. I think that something I focused on in this essay was talking about TikTok, which is a real experience, to show actual evidence for, why I am passionate about communications. I think that the UCs like to see someone who has grown from their experiences. You should always connect your essay at the end to show how you improved. A general structure to follow in your essays is talk about an experience, tell a story with descriptive words, and, tell a story. And then at the end, connect it back to how you've improved as a person, how you've grown, how it has prepared you for your major. And also a tip for you people applying right now is that I got this book on Amazon, which had a bunch of college essays that got accepted into schools. It's called 500 Successful College Essays or something like that. There's a bunch of books. It's all kind of the same, but it's good to read essays that people wrote and kind of see what they did to see what worked. A lot of descriptive words, telling real stories and experiences, and making sure that you explain how it has made you grow as a person. So for my next essay, I wrote about what have you done to make your school or your community a better place? And I said, I began my 5th grade year having just moved to a new school away from everything and everyone I knew. As a queer and Asian kid, I already knew I wasn't like everyone else, but I had no idea how different I really was. For one school project, we were instructed to do a presentation about our background, and I decided to focus on the food of my Vietnamese culture. It was a cold November morning, and my mother made warm egg rolls for the kids to try, packed in a red lunchbox that I carried into class. As I entered the classroom from recess, I heard one of my classmates exclaim, "What is that? It smelled like someone farted." I felt my face grow hot with dread and embarrassment. From that day on, I did whatever I could to never feel that way again or make anyone else feel that way. This commitment has remained with me throughout my life and is at the core of my role as Inter-Club Council representative of Earth Club. In this role, I represent my club at ICC meetings, providing me with a platform to ensure everyone's voice is heard and included. I also represent my club on campus, successfully encouraging 5 of my friends from class to join our weekly club meetings. While the purpose of our club is to spread environmental awareness, we're also a group of students from around the world united by a shared passion for protecting our planet. Ultimately, this club has become a way for people to come together, something I've worked for my entire life, through planning events and social gatherings where everyone is welcome. I see bettering my community as more than the literal sense. I make my community a better place by connecting people. Everyone deserves to feel like they belong somewhere, especially a place where they can be the most at ease and true to themselves. I am dedicated to doing my part to make sure no one in my community feels the way I did that day in 5th grade. So, for this essay, I really focused on not exactly trauma dumping, but like kind of. For this essay, I kind of trauma dumped because, I mean, you probably should have like one essay where you kind of talk about like a sad story a little bit. Obviously, don't just like trauma dump and try to make them feel bad for you. You should try to connect it to an activity, experience, extracurricular, something that made you improve as a person. I mean, when you talk about like a sad experience that happened to you, you have to explain how you grew from it and how it made you improve and change as a person. Don't just try to make them feel bad for you because they can see right through that. But when you focus on your experiences also in these essays, it's good to talk about things that happened recently. So ICC representative is something that I did while I was at community college, not in high school, not before that. You should try to focus on recent experiences. So even though I talked about 5th grade, I also talked about something in community college in the same essay. So for my last essay, I chose the prompt, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. And I said, the unknown is a source of fear for everyone, regardless of age. When I worked as a swimming teacher this summer, most of my time was spent with young children and toddlers, teaching them basic strokes, swim techniques, and safety. Most of my students had never swum before. This was evident in their hesitant behavior during their first lesson. They would walk to the edge of the pool, clutching their mother's hands with a nervous look on their face. When it was time for their mom to leave, they would cry, and it was my job to calm them down and make them feel comfortable enough to participate in class. The methods I used to calm them down included playing peekaboo, splashing small amounts of water on them, or putting their favorite toy in the pool. Once they got in the water, they typically realized it wasn't so bad after all. By their 4th or 5th lesson, they would be running into the pool and splashing around playfully. I always find true inspiration and a joy on their faces after accomplishing something new that initially frightened them. I recall one of my students crying and clinging onto his mother's hand, willing her to stay. I gave him confidence by adapting my approach, breaking lessons into smaller steps, and celebrating every little victory. Before long, he was blissfully swimming across the pool. Even though I am in a position of teaching and leadership in this role, I believe these kids have taught me more than I could ever teach them. As I prepare to embark on my next step towards my adult life, I have to admit that I am a bit scared of the unknown future ahead of me. I see myself in my students, like a child at the edge of the pool for the first time, staring into what feels like an enormous abyss. However, just like my students, I know that once I do jump in, it will all be fine. So again, for this essay, I talked about working at a swim school, which is something I did between my first and second year at community college in the summer. And honestly, I only worked at that job because I wanted something to write about for my essay. I know that the UC is kind of like work experience, and my only work experience was TikTok. Honestly, didn't need a job like for financial reasons. I kind of just wanted to write about something. So I applied for a swim school over the summer. I worked there for 3 months, and I was able to write this essay and include it in my extracurriculars. Obviously, again, talking about a real experience, something real that I did recently in community college, and then I connected it to how it made me improve as a person, what I learned from that role, and how it makes me feel like I will be prepared to embark and transfer to a UC. It's very important to include in your conclusion how you have improved as a person and what lessons you will take from that experience. But some other tips about writing essays is that you kind of want to portray yourself as like a nice person. Just try to focus on like how you're portraying yourself and read it from like the admissions officer's perspective, how they'll perceive you. You know, they want like nice people who have leadership roles and are driven. So obviously this was kind of my leadership role essay. And then I kind of talked about like a sad experience that happened to me, which kind of made me seem like a nice person. And then like obviously the TikTok essay is just really connected to my major, and then the first one was obviously mandatory. But yeah, now we will move on to extracurricular activities. Okay, so I have my extracurriculars right here on my UC application. And for my first extracurricular activity, obviously TikTok. Now for your extracurriculars, you can rank them. You should put your most important ones at the top and your least important ones at the bottom. That's up for you to decide what you think is most important / impressive / related to your major and recent. Just consider how recent it is. You don't want to put some experience that you did in high school at the top. So for my first one I did, TikTok. I talked about how the followers I gained, the revenue generated. Just put like very explicit sentences. You don't want to be like descriptive or tell a story in your description. So I just said I created managed multiple TikTok accounts, developed skills in data analysis, trend forecasting, adapted to algorithms and trends, blah blah blah. Then for my second one, I talked about how I worked at the swim school. This kind of explains what I did. For my third one, I talked about my internship as a social media manager and how I created content for them, focused on TikTok, and used my previous experience as a boba shop barista. Then for my next one, I also talked about another internship I did for social media marketing. Then for my fifth one, I talked about how I worked at a boba shop, but this was during high school. I worked there for over a year, and I just talked about how I created TikTok content for them and also made boba. Okay, my phone just ran out of storage, but I'm back. Anyways, for my seventh and last extracurricular, I talked about Depop, which kind of was just like a filler one. I mean, I did that a little bit. I talked about how I went to the Goodwill bins in San Francisco and generated over $1,000 on Depop. Did that sometimes, thrifted and sold clothes and my own clothes, and went to the Goodwill bins a few times. I also talked about how I did the UCLA TAP program, which is really important. Almost forgot to talk about this, but the UCLA TAP program is an honors program that you can do at your community college. You take 5 honors classes. Personally, the one I did, you have to take 5 honors classes, and your acceptance rate for UCLA goes from 25% to around 70 to 80%. Apparently, that's what they say. I think the main benefit is that you get to choose an alternate major, and they review you for your alternate major. So I put communications as my primary major, and my alternate major was linguistics. But I think something that people don't know is that even if your community college doesn't offer it, I go to DVC. So I enrolled in East Los Angeles College, which is in SoCal, and I did the honors program fully online. I took 5 honors classes fully online. A lot of people don't know that, but I was really locked in and determined to get into UCLA, so I did all those classes online. So that's basically it for my extracurriculars and essays, but also some of my other stats are I had a 4.0. For communications, there are 7 major requirements, but the thing about how UCs review your application is that they do a holistic review. They review the classes that you're able to take. So I was only able to do 5 out of the 7 major requirements, and I still got accepted because they saw that I wasn't able to take those classes. There was no course articulated. If you check on assist.org, you'll be able to see which classes you can take. Obviously, do the maximum you can the fall semester before you submit your application, because you need to be able to show that you can succeed in those classes and get an A in your major requirements. Another thing is that I think UCLA cares a lot more about grades and whether you succeeded in your major requirements, and if you took it. They really care about getting a 4.0 or the highest grade you can and taking all the major requirements you can do. They care about that a lot more than extracurriculars and essays. UC Berkeley kind of cares more about essays and extracurriculars compared to UCLA. I know some people that got a 4.0 and was still rejected from UC Berkeley, either because they didn't have strong enough extracurriculars or essays. But I think that you just really need to come across as well-rounded and really just lock in your first year at community college. It's gonna be a really hard year. If I got to choose to do it again, I would, because I get to attend UCLA, and I don't think that I would have gotten in high school. I didn't apply out of high school anywhere. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions for me, leave them in the comments, and please subscribe to this channel because this is my first video, and I really want to make more videos at UCLA because I'm going to Bruin Week in 2 weeks. And also, if you know my TikTok, you can follow me on TikTok. I'll vlog at UCLA and show my experience as a transfer and kind of tell you guys what it was like. And I'm really excited to go to UCLA. So go Bruins, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe.